Hello, anyone new in this with EPLAN? Well, this video might actually help you. Number one thing I want to talk about is, of course, our cloud solution, eplan.com. If you actually log in here, you will find something really interesting as you go further down. It's called the EPLAN e-learning. So if you want to discover a little bit more, just go in here and you will see we have all kinds of small videos. Now, of course, these free videos are you to watch and check out. There are a couple of things that are quite interesting. I will actually create a few of these beginner videos. The first one will actually handle the interface. So let's just talk about quickly what the EPLAN solution is. It's one platform where you can do electrical schematics, fluid diagrams, P&IDs, any kind of pre-planning engineering overview, and from there create your detailed schematics, 3-line, single line, and do the 3D layout at the same time. So technically it all starts with the electrical schematics, you know, what we typically do in a CAD package. And what you typically do in a different package, we do it in the same package, we do it in the same platform, in the same tool, in the same project, the 3D layout. So anything you add on one side is available eventually on the other side. Sometimes parts are only in the mechanical assembly, in the mechanical layout. Sometimes the parts are only on the electrical schematics. They are also sometimes part of the field. Then you don't necessarily do the 3D graphics. On top of all that, we have the EPLAN Cloud that provides you with a viewer, kind of a box, an e-manage, where we can upload, download projects, share them in a collaborative way with partners. We also have eStock, where we can save parts and again, collaboratively share with others. The cloud also contains our data portal where everything starts. But of course, once you have EPLAN installed, you will open EPLAN and you either have EPLAN Electric P8 or you have EPLAN ProPanel. Either or, what I'm going to talk about is the same for both. So I'm going to concentrate on ProPanel, the one that I sell most. So the ProPanel interface, as you can see here, first I will open very quickly here an existing project which I already have created a little bit earlier, and I will explain based on what I'm opening here, what I see and how the interface works. So the number one thing that everyone always looks for in electrical controls is a panic button. Now, what I'm going to show you here, you can always undo and go back to the standard settings. So if you screw up, if you actually somehow close a dialog and the dialog just disappeared, it's no longer there, panic button or the reset is simply up here on the right hand side. You can see your name, it's called Workspaces, and you can go back to the default workspace or your preferred workspace that you have created. Now let's talk about this workspace. What does it consist of? The workspace consists of course, a set of ribbons with, as you can see, different functions below. Okay, before we used to have menus and then scrolling menus and you have to find something. Nowadays we actually have these ribbons. If you actually remember the feature, let's say snap to grid, you can also type it in here at the very top and then you can see if it appears. Everything is contextual. So depending on what is open, where you are clicked on, it will react to that particular thing. So here at the moment, I have nothing open. You can see I open here the page navigator. This is usually where we start. And within the project, we can see now we have a project with a series of pages in there that seem to be structured in document type, location, and I can simply then double click on whatever page I want or another page and it will flip through the pages. Another thing that is interesting, of course, when you look at this project, you can see page 10, 11, and 12. You can use at the very top here the next page, and often what is in brackets here is also the keyboard shortcut that will do it. So you can actually flip through the pages like going page down simply by clicking page down or page up. If you want to open two different graphic editors at the same time, just right mouse click on the page that you desire to open and then say open in a new window. What will happen is you will have now two windows here opened. And again, if I'm on page 17, which is actually marked up at the very top in the header, you can double click and it will open it. You can close this again if you wish to. Now, another thing that is interesting is that EPLAN, as we said earlier, is composed of, on one side, the schematics, and on the other side is composed of a layout. These two actually work together hand in hand because you have the components that once were used in the schematics will most likely be positioned here somewhere on the panel. So there's a link between these components, and the link, I just clicked on U for invisible elements. You can also go here to the view invisible elements and it will do the same thing. So the interesting thing, if you zoom in, and whether you double click here or you double click on this side here, you usually get a very similar dialog. This dialog is again contextually related to what you open. So here we open the parts placement at circuit breaker 1302, and you can even right mouse click here, go to counterpiece, and it will jump to that particular device, which is indeed in this particular case on page 13. And then when you double click here, the context menu, the device information is slightly different because you are now on the main function where everything actually is defined. So the regular properties, as you can see them here, the parts, as you can see them here. Very often in parts, we distinguish between parts and parts reference data. Parts data is actually the fixed data that is predefined for all those parts in the parts management, okay? And when you say parts reference data, this is data that can change. For instance, here, if I go for the lubrication maintenance time, service time, they may vary from one component to another. Procurement is another one that I use very often because in procurement, you can specify it's actually ordered by the customer or it's ordered by a specific department or something like that. You can even use something very specific is suppress and device list. There are a couple of features that are specific to this part number, but that part number somewhere else does and may exist and may not have these values to those properties. Another thing that is also very common to all of these navigators is the fact that we have the possibility to look at these pages in a tree format. This is the structured format, or in a list format. Of course, the list format is kind of tricky when you have this page dialog positioned at the left or on the right, where it's actually, as you can see, if I want it here next to the other or at the top here, it will go at the top of the whole dialog or at the top of just that center dialog. So depending on where you move your dialog, it will appear in that particular position. Now, I don't foresee why someone would do this, but this is just for the sake of the explanation at the moment for the page navigator, just to show you that in the page navigator, we have a number of attributes, properties that are actually displayed in the list view and lesser in the tree view. Now, this can all be configured because once you are in any given dialog like this, you can go to configure representation and you can add more attributes, more properties to this particular dialog, and you can even organize in what order they will appear. So first comes first, second column, third column, fourth column. You want to move them up and down, you can just move them up and down. This consists of a scheme. So if I do modify something, I can save that scheme and I can export that scheme. Now, this is also true for something else called here at the very top, the filter. Any given navigator has most likely an option of giving you here filters. Interactive pages, for instance, are the pages that you modify. Automatic pages are reports, as an example. So of course you could go for very specific pages and say, okay, I want specific pages related to document type. So what that does is we have to look, you can click here on the very far end right-hand side next to the filter, and you can see how the filter is actually being composed. Now here the filter is composed of the document type that has to be equal a certain value. Now it has a quick input. The quick input actually allows you to put in the value up here. The interesting thing behind the scene is that you can then switch the filter on the fly. So here I'm filtering everything that's engineering documentation. If I want to change this for, let's say, manufacturing type of documentation, in my particular case here, it becomes handy because it actually then reduces the number of pages viewed here or in the list, it's always contextual, to only manufacturing pages, or like I did earlier, E in my case, and this is really something that comes from your organization of your project. I strongly invite you to do an onboarding session with your consultants locally to actually get this perfect. We here in Canada offer a specific Canadian project that actually matches very well the nature of the schematics, how we do them here. But we can adapt this, and we do this during an online session. So this being said, I will reposition this particular page navigator, because I typically use it in a tree view format, on the very left-hand side here, or share it with this block here. So you can see now I have layout, 3D, and pages. Of course, if I want this back to what I had earlier, I can probably take this page navigator and move it here to the left-hand side, but then it actually doubles them up. And you will see that at one point in time, again, you will come into this arrangement that you just no longer know how to get out of. Remember, reset button, just reset this to your default, and bingo, it just reorganizes the position of every single window or dialog. Now, the dialogs we were looking at, and this is one of the powerful things about EPLAN, is one of the navigators. You will find them here under view, and you will see a list of all these navigators. I will not go through all of these navigators. One that I personally find very handy to explain a little bit how the structure of EPLAN works is the device or the bill of material navigator. So the bill of material navigator is quite interesting because it shows you all the material that is used within this project, and if you wish to change something, you can go on 1, 2, 3, or even more objects. I was using the Shift key or the Control key to add or deselect something. Now, very interesting, I could be here and I could use the Go to Graphics to just find that object. I could select these 3, not necessarily knowing if they are related to the same part number, but I could also use these 5, right mouse click properties, and from that point on, very contextually, I can open the general properties and I can change any attribute or property that is related to the selection that I was doing here. So remember, where your mouse is always very important, because when you do open something, if it's a double click, it's quite easy, but if it's not a double click, then you can see it reacts to whatever was selected. Now this selection may vary, and interesting is this property overview that actually does a summary of everything that you have selected. Again, this one here nowadays can be configured, so you can customize the rows. That's quite interesting too. Again, they also have like tree view and list views, right? So kind of structural organization. So in a tree format or in a list format, but basically to list some properties. It's quite interesting. Another thing that we love to actually use in EPLAN to actually go and add something is here this insert center. Now the insert center is very powerful because here, if you're looking for something special, let's say motors, you can just type in motors and it will and may list you a couple of different things where motors are. Could be a part, a device, could be a window macro, could be a symbol, or it could be all of them together. And then, of course, you can pick, choose, and drag and drop. The most interesting thing about this newer version is that you can create favorites and tags. So if you ever have a macro, a part number, or something, you can see motors is a lot. And this is why, in my case, I actually have some favorites. So I created myself some favorites. And if I want to create a favorite, it's not harder than you go down, you drill to whatever you typically would use. In my case here, I'm looking for some motor macro here, and I'm going to create this, or just check it here as my favorite. It will appear in my favorite. If I actually put it here in a group called motors, okay, or power consumers, then it would actually be in the tags section here. Tags, motor, I have this one, or favorite, and now it was added. So it's a simple drag and drop from there, and you can start using it. Another thing that is also interesting is how these menus are now organized. So as you know, in EPLAN, you will be drawing mostly devices, PLC devices, terminals, plugs. These are objects you can actually physically see and buy. Now, another thing that EPLAN does, when you actually draw and attach something to something else, so if you take, let's say, any kind of symbol in EPLAN, you no longer have to draw the lines or anything that comes with it. So if you're looking for, let's say, a sensor or anything, a push button or a palette light, and you want to just drag and drop it and put it there, all you have to do is click, and you will see the lines actually appear automatically, and you don't have to worry about them. There's another trick that is quite interesting too. If you wish to position multiple elements at the same time, very nice trick. Let's say some terminals. I have a row of terminals that are part of a junction box. So maybe here, 1, 2, 3. Just drag and drop it down, boom, 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 and you will have 3 new wires. Of course, I can put another wire here. I can put another wire there. Every time I put an element, it actually numbers automatically. And if you do want to associate 2 objects together, you can use the display DT here and say, okay, I want to actually use the TB135, use the next available designation, and it will actually pick the next designation. When you generate cross references between coils and contacts, it's pretty much the same thing. You double click on an object, you say, okay, this object is actually the same object as another object. You just have to click here and find that other object. So if these 2 push buttons, as you can see here, are very similar, because I'm using the, I'm not really in the right symbol right now. Let's see if I have another push button. They're all normally closed. This one has normally open contact. So I want to use this normally open contact here. Boom. You can see that it's actually function oriented. So it's quite interesting, because now it actually renamed the connections. And bingo, I also have now a cross reference between this element here, which is the PB1, and the PB1 that is somewhere else in the schematics, right? So there's a direct link through the device tags. Super, super easy interface, easy to understand. And if you relate this back to your device navigator, as we were talking earlier, device navigator, just open it here. You will see that under this particular push button, we now have a couple of different elements. We have the contact that is on one page. We have the main that is another page. We have even placed the device itself and the contacts themselves on the 3D. It can all be seen in this navigator. Again, a navigator sometimes may be useful as a list view, maybe not. It's up to you. One navigator I love to use here is actually the connections, because now you can see that we created all these lines which end up being connections. So connections that, of course, can be numbered. If you ever come to one of our trainings, we'll explain to you all the details about these numbering schemes that are there. Otherwise, just use a standard numbering scheme. We follow as close as we can the NFPA standard structure. But again, in the onboarding, we would adapt this for your needs. Now, these wires, again, appear in a wire navigator. This wire navigator, I personally like to use it down here, because in this case, I love to use the list view, because we just have so much more information at the tip of your fingers for that specific wire. It's really, really a cool thing to use. So there we go. Now, some of you like to change the interfaces, like to modify everything. Here at the top, you can customize the ribbons if you want to. So this is no different from any other ribbon tool that is out there, like Microsoft or whatever. Just change them here. You can also change something interesting I like to do is actually to custom the quick access toolbar. The quick access toolbar is the thing that is at the very top here. And I like to use the export manufacturing data labeling. So the export labeling, I love to use it because why? It's something that I do on a frequent basis. Very often someone will ask me, can you generate, let's say, a summarized bill of material for the entire project? So don't forget here to apply to the entire project, because again, depending on where you were before you open this, contextually, it will only give you the data that is part of the selection that you did. And then, of course, it generates. In this case, I wanted the entire project to come out. So I selected the project, applied to the entire project, and bingo, it comes out. So these could be modified and they are saved until the next time you reopen EPLAN. There are, of course, a couple of things that are in the background, like the settings here that are on the file. To open a project, this is where you open existing projects you already did, because we often work on the same projects. You can work here through the browse. What you can also do, of course, is all the export features are also in here, like exporting PDF, DXF, or even manufacturing data, or even for the machining for the Perforex, it does it automatically. For the WT, it generates the wire terminals, labels, everything is generated automatically. So that's behind the scene, and this is often under the file menu. So the rest of the interface, we will learn a little bit more. And remember what I just told you, important, a lot of the things you will see in a lot of different areas. Let's say here in parts, when you select something, you will see again a tree view and list view. Again, same through these icons or down at the bottom here. The two options are there. In both cases, we have filters and we have quick search buttons. So there are a couple of different ways to go and navigate through this. I hope this helps you figure out a little bit more how to navigate. Another thing that is interesting, and you saw this maybe earlier from some others, when you want to navigate to the cross-reference that is there, just hit the control button, put your finger on the green text, which is the cross-reference, and it will simply bring you bingo to the cross-referenced element. I was using earlier the go-to counterpiece. Works kind of the same way because it's a unique counterpiece. There are different ways to do that. And there's also another interesting trick you shall know is if you have ever a component that you want to find within the navigator, right mouse click, synchronize selection. So I hope this was not too much. Otherwise, you can just redo or replay this video. And hopefully you remember most of what you said. You'll become an expert in EPLAN. So thank you. This was one of my first beginners videos for the interface. Thank you. Bye.